Hello, AP friends and scholars, and welcome to another week of AP Language and Composition. This week we are going to continue to begin or continue, depending on where your class got with our in-person instruction last week. We are going to discuss or continue discussing what I am calling molecular English. So this PowerPoint is intended to help you with part 2 of this week's worksheet, where you are recording your notes and also your learning for this week. So if you want to take a moment to go ahead and open up that assignment so that you can follow along while we're walking through this, that would be helpful. Just a quick thought that you can pause this video at any point if you need more time, or if I tell you that this is a breaking point, go ahead and pause it until you've done the task that I've instructed you to do, and then you can continue on with the PowerPoint after you have tended to that task in your worksheet document. So once again, we are continuing with our study of molecular English. And this week I want you to continue thinking about the question, what can I see when I look? So kind of applying our thinking about seeing, looking, and watching that we have been doing in the online realm the last few weeks, now to language or diction and syntax, which we'll be thinking about and talking about this week. So what can I see when I look? Or what can we see when we look? So again, this is for part 2. You want to go ahead and get to part 2 in your worksheet. This is laying the groundwork. I'd like you to take a few moments to look up the word molecular and jot down a definition for it. Then record the most appropriate definition on your note sheet. And then also answer the question, what do you think this lesson will focus on based on this definition and the title, Molecular English? If you've already answered this question in class, you can go ahead and jot your answer down here as well. We're just going to scrap the note-taking sheet from last week if you started it in class with me. Take a moment to pause the video now and jot down your answers to those questions and that definition. Once you've had a chance to jot down your definition of molecular and think about how it might apply to this lesson, I'd like you to take a moment to record the focus standards for this lesson. The first standard is determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in the text, including figurative and connotative meanings. Analyze the impact of specific word choices on meaning and tone, including words with multiple meanings or language that is particularly fresh, engaging, or beautiful. The second standard is going to be a standard that we explore in class this week and next, which is punctuation, commas, colons, semicolons, dashes, hyphens, parentheses, quotation marks, or end marks, advances a writer's purpose by clarifying, organizing, emphasizing, indicating purpose, supplementing information, or contributing to tone. And the final standard, again, we'll be looking at in class, is to vary syntax for effect, consulting references, for example, Tufts' Artful Sentences, or in class, in praise of the humble comma, which we'll be reading together, for guidance as needed. Apply an understanding of syntax to the study of complex texts when reading. So at this point, go ahead and pause your video and take a moment to record these standards in your note-taking sheet, please. After you've had a chance to record these standards, let's take a look at our essential questions. What can we see when we look? Is the question that's going to be guiding us to look at things like diction and syntax. Following up on that, how do writers use diction and syntax to emphasize the meaning of a sentence or passage and increase its impact? Go ahead and take a minute to pause here and record those essential questions. The remainder of this PowerPoint You can advance as necessary or at your own pace. I'd like you just to take a few minutes to go through each of these definitions to make sure that you're recording them in your note-taking sheet. You can pause the video at any place that you need to. Denotation and connotation, we would like to, let me go back to le mot juste. This is a French term meaning the exactly right word or phrasing. For a bit of irony, English was apparently unable to come up with its own mot juste to refer to a word or phrase that expresses exactly what the writer or speaker is trying to say, and so borrowed the French term instead. The difference between denotation and connotation is something you need to know as we move forward so that we can talk about words and their definitions and their meanings productively and purposefully. Denotation is the dictionary definition of a word or phrase. You can always remember this with all the D's. Denotation, dictionary, definition. Connotation, on the other hand, is the emotional and imaginative associations that a word carries. A good way to distinguish between these two things is to think about the word home. If you think about the denotation of home, it's simply a structure where one can reside or simply where one resides. But if we think about the connotations for home, typically, depending on your experience with home or homes, we might think about warmth, love, safety, potentially. Certain smells might be evoked, certain memories might be evoked. Those would be the connotative associations with the word home. Nouns and verbs, this should be a really easy review, as should the next couple. A noun is simply a person, place, or thing. A verb is an action word or a word used to describe an action, state, or occurrence. You'll need both of these definitions, though, for the activities that follow. Simile and metaphor. A simile is a figure of speech using like or as, involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, used to make a description more emphatic or vivid. We'll talk a little bit about vivid verbs in our activity, playing with powerful language. A metaphor is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase, literally denoting one kind of object or idea, is used in place of another to suggest a likeness or analogy between them. You might just know the definition for metaphor as a comparison between two unlike things. One concrete or literal and one figurative. And finally, I would like you to take some time to explore the difference between passive and active voice. On your worksheet, there are a few links provided for you to be able to do this on your own. So this will end this PowerPoint in this video, and this will also conclude your work with the groundwork section of your worksheet. Once you're done with this, you can go on to part 3. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your great work this week.